Thank you very much, and thank you, Secretary, and the team at ACE for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here at about midnight in the UK, so forgive me if my English sometimes drifts into Dutch, although it shouldn't really happen very often. Professor Ward perfectly set the scene for this topic, and I'm going to pick up from her contribution by providing a little bit more detailed insight in how we deal with high-cost technologies at NICE. I'll be touching on various activities that have been helpful for us as an organization operating in England, but you'll be aware that there are also organizations in Scotland and Wales that have similar duties as NICE. I will not speak on their behalf, but much of what I'm saying is more or less what they do as well. I'm approaching today's contribution by thinking about the following questions. What challenges are we facing with high-cost technologies? What are the success factors for introducing them? What role does NICE play? How does this new innovative licensing and access pathway help? And I'll give you a bit of an insight in what that is. And how do we support international partnerships? And I'm coming to this from the perspective that if you want to introduce up-and-coming high-cost technologies, what do you need to do to consider making this a success? And before I try and answer those questions, I would also point out the challenge we're facing, as Professor Ward has already discussed. There are a significant number of very expensive technologies entering our markets, and my contribution today will be focusing mainly on pharmaceuticals, although we have a big role to play in medtech. Of course, these technologies are the result of amazing science and an ever greater emphasis and opportunity for personalization. Many of the innovations, especially in pharmaceuticals, focus on oncology and immunology and diabetes, all the big-hitting diseases of modern time. But it's good to see that we also see more emphasis on diseases of the nervous system, like Alzheimer and mental health. And we see this in the bottom of the slide within our own scientific advice program. We see a lot of interest from companies in those areas where there's a lot of innovation and development. As already touched upon by Professor Ward, high-cost technologies present an increasing challenge for us as societies, as HTA agencies, many of which are not just UK challenges. Of course, you see them as well. Changing demographics, increasing uncertainty, further personalization, increasing development costs for pharmaceuticals, lengthy patents. There's a limited focus on generics with these new technologies. There's not much opportunity to regain some of the investments we've made. Smaller patient populations, there's limited competition often, and there's a fragmented payer community, although that's less relevant in the United Kingdom. For a country like the UK, and I should say this as part of the recent change in the way we operate in Europe, there's a clear interest from our government in the life sciences and in innovation. And you see here the Life Sciences Vision, which is a government document that drives a lot of what we do and what many of our colleagues in the system do. And if you see the strategic goal there, that is clearly focusing on introducing innovation and technology into the system in a cost-effective way, but with clear focus on patient benefits. So what are the success factors for introducing high-cost technologies? Well, I think, first of all, know what's coming. Second, be clear about what you're going to do. Third, make sure you get value for patients, and Professor Ward also identified that. Deal with uncertainty, make a difference to clinical practice, and work together where you can. If you translate that into perhaps more HTA speak, then it's about horizon scanning, process and methods, commercial and managed access. It's about implementation and regulatory and HTA collaboration. And all of these I will touch upon in this talk. Now, if you think about NICE as an organization, we're at the forefront of bringing high-value care to people, and we've been doing that since 1999. We balance the best care with value for money, delivering both for individuals and society as a whole. But we also drive innovation into the hands of health and care professionals to enable best practice. And thirdly, I think that's important to say because you might get the impression that we're only in favor of innovation, but we're fiercely independent. Our decisions are rigorous, transparent, and based on evidence. If you think about how we support innovation as an organization, there's three aspects to it. First, we play a role in facilitating the interaction between the life sciences industry and our payer, NHS England, but also our regulator, the MHRA. Second, we produce methodological approaches that are rigorous and that are supporting value. And third, we spend a lot of time making sure that what we say also happens in the NHS, because we could be very good at producing HTA guidance, but if these are not adopted, these technologies, there will be no benefit for the work we've done. And if you look at the three roles we play, the facilitation, there's a number of activities that I will touch upon later in this conversation, but they are related to the work we do with industry when it comes to scientific advice and our Office for Market Access. And we're also working very closely now with our regulator in two programs. They're with acronyms ILAP and IDAP. Those are Innovative Licensing and Access Pathway for Medicines and an Innovative Device Access Pathway for MedTech. So if we think about process and methods, so what do we do to make sure that high-cost innovations can enter the market? You probably know, and you probably realize, that as many of HTA agencies, we have to bring a number of potentially conflicting concepts together. We have to think about uncertainty, we have to think about affordability, transparency, opportunity costs. And by bringing that all together, the only way to do that appropriately is through developing very clear process and method statements. And I'm sure you have seen our manual over the years. The recent update in 2022 has specifically drawn out thinking around the valuing of benefits for health technologies. Looking at modifiers, we had a modifier for products that produce health benefits at the end of life that's now changed to a modifier for severity. We have a specific modifier for highly specialized technologies where we recognize the specific circumstances for rare diseases. And we place a greater emphasis on real-world evidence, although we don't all like the term. And in the context of increasing uncertainty, we believe that there's an important area for us to concentrate on. But we also, on the process side, think about more flexible arrangements for making decisions. It is completely impossible for us as HTA agencies to appraise every single drug with its indication. There are now in immuno-oncology many drugs that have 30 to 40 indications, and we have to be more pragmatic and more proportionate. So in our process update, we've been very clear that there has to be a sense of proportionality to the work we do. And there will be more on that over the next couple of months. But also we've been very importantly focusing on commercial and managed access processes. Those are the activities that support technologies where their value is under discussion and where the evidence is not ready yet for full appraisal. So if I turn to commercial and managed access now as a success factor for introducing high-cost technologies. First off, I think you should be aware that when it comes to the United Kingdom, one way of managing the commercial impact of introducing high-cost technologies is by having a voluntary scheme for branded medicines pricing and access. It's a scheme that has been in place for many years, although under a different name. And it effectively caps the expend on pharmaceuticals at a level each year, and now set for 2%. So when we spend more than 2% on pharmaceutical expenditure, the industry as a whole, all those that have signed up to the scheme, and that's most companies, rebate an amount of money related to their sales. So that's one way of thinking about affordability, is by having a voluntary scheme to manage the total expenditure. So that's at the macroeconomic level, and that provides for room for us to have negotiations about more individualized commercial arrangements. And there's many of them. Over the years, about 80% of our guidance involves a commercial arrangement of some kind, often simple discounts. But over the last years, as you see here on this slide, a ever-increasing number of arrangements that are of more innovative nature, you could say. And you recognize the spinal muscular atrophy, cystic fibrosis, tumor-agnostic drugs, all of them come with specific arrangements. The other aspect of commercial and managed access is the managed access side. And that managed access, in our mind, is a way of managing the uncertainty that's often part of the introduction of these high-cost technologies. These managed access agreements contain a commercial agreement, but more importantly, a data collection agreement to ensure that while the medicine is on the market, we deliver on further evidence collection. And there's about 50 managed access agreements at the moment operating in the NHS. They are used by our committee as one of the decision options they have, so they can say yes, no, or recommend it for managed access. And when that is done, then there's two pots of money. One is the Cancer Drugs Fund, and one is the Innovative Medicines Fund, both £375 million, from which we will then pay, or the NHS will pay for the use of those medicines while data is collected. And that's a clear, important area for us to consider, because we need to know whether those drugs are, in fact, the value that they represent while they're in that managed access period. And there's a lot of emphasis now on reviewing the technologies that have been in the Cancer Drugs Fund and that are coming out at the moment, one of which is one of the CAR-Ts. So finally, what are the success factors for introducing high-cost technologies when it comes to collaboration? And I want to specifically draw your attention to one collaboration that we've recently engaged with. So imagine a world where we could do the trials, create the evidence, develop the commercial options, and think about managed access much earlier in the development pathway for a technology. Surely that would make the introduction of these high-cost technologies so much easier. And we embarked on exactly that thinking about a year and a half ago through the Innovative Licensing and Access Pathway, which is a partnership between us as an HTA agency, but also the agency in Scotland and Wales with our regulator. And the idea is that we award innovation passports to high-cost technologies on the basis of a number of criteria, and then apply a toolkit of interventions to these technologies, be it thinking about real-world evidence, novel trial methodology, scientific advice. And our emphasis is that if we do this upfront in the development pathway, we will be able to make sure that once these products come to market, the evidence base is relevant for us and the regulator. So the aim of this program is to provide a streamlined approach to getting regulation and patient access ready. And we've already had about 135 applications in the year and a half that we've been going. This is a unique UK platform to encourage earlier and sustained structured engagement, and we believe that this is a critical part of our future strategy for introducing high-cost technologies. Mirrored also on the device side, this is not just for medicines. So I thought I'll also touch on two examples, and Professor Ward already described Luxturna as one of the high-cost technologies that they've been looking at, and as we have as well. It's a technology that specifically addresses blindness caused by the RPE65 gene mutations. I describe here in very, very brief terms what the disease area is about. I don't want to go into much of the detail here. And the evidence, for what it's worth, was very scarce. There are some signals and some optimism about this product, but the results of the trials show that there, at least for the long term, there's not enough evidence for us to make a decision on for routine care. Cost effectiveness, the committee saw cost effectiveness ratios ranging from 114,000 to 156,000, and you should know that this is considered as a highly specialized technology, so it can apply a QALY weighting, as I mentioned before, a modifier of the health value, and that QALY weighting ranges between 1 and 3, and it depends on how many QALYs are gained. In this case, the QALY gains were between 12 and 17, as the committee considered, and therefore those ICER ranges were acceptable. And the committee considered, therefore, that Luxturna could be recommended. Out of all the ATMPs that we have looked at, most have been recommended by our committees. But there were other considerations that our committee gave. It was not just cost effectiveness. There was a very large emotional effect of the disease on patients and their carers. There were definitely interests other than just the healthcare, where the committee specifically addressed their concerns. And overall, there will be a reduction in costs incurred by the non-NHS government departments, at least that was the assumption. And there was high unmet need. So taking all this together, with high unmet need, the results uncertain, but clearly indicating promise, improved visual performance, the product, and there were benefits not captured, as I just went through. So this was recommended as part of the highly specialized technologies program. For CAR-T, the second case study, CAR-T, you know much about this probably already. It's a technology that is specifically designed for individual patients, personalized medicine. There are key issues in the clinical and cost effectiveness of these listed here, mostly about the evidence, about the comparators, about the costs of identifying patients, the cost of manufacturing, etc. And questions about whether these technologies actually address the end of life. The clinical effectiveness issues for CAR-T technologies, often short-term trials, medium overall survival not reached, a high degree of censoring, and these are all the individual CAR-Ts we've looked at. But the clinical experts highlighted that these were promising results, but acknowledging the short-term follow-up. And the most plausible cost-effectiveness ratios for all these products fell within the normally acceptable range for our committees if you take into account an end-of-life factor, and that's again one of the modifiers we're using for health benefits. And therefore, taking into account those cost-effectiveness ratios and the modifiers applied, plus commercial arrangements that the committee could consider, these products were recommended for use. One of them in managed access in the Cancer Drugs Fund, but the other ones as part of routine care. So I hope this kind of whistle-stop tour through the work of NICE and partners in the UK to support the introduction of new technologies has been useful. I hope you will learn from it and that we can talk about this in the future if we further collaborate as organizations. So thank you very much.